Welcome to the Midweek Mailbag, your Detroit Lions midweek podcast where we typically answer your questions, but this week we are asking questions. My name is Jeremy Resman. I'm the producer of Pride of Detroit, and with me, as always, is Eric Schlitt. Eric, how we doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. I'm very excited. I don't want to waste any more time. Let's introduce our guest here.
Yes, let's talk about the dynamic. We are asking questions to our very special guest with the help of you guys who submitted a lot of questions this week. He is the new Detroit Lions offensive coordinator. Drew Petzing is here. Drew, thanks for spending some time with us, man.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Really excited to get to know you. And let's just kind of start at the very basic. Like, what can you tell us your kind of overall offensive philosophies? Are there specific tenets? What does a Drew Petzing offense look like?
Yeah, I think the key to any offense is it's got to be built around the players you have, and you got to highlight their ability and what they do best. So that's going to be different game to game based on who's available. Every roster I've been on, it's going to be a little different. I've been very fortunate throughout my career to be around some great coaches who come from different backgrounds and different systems and have different beliefs. And I think I've taken a little bit, kind of from everybody in terms of how I want to build things and the language that I go off of and what I believe in. And then I think at the end of the day, the game comes down to the fundamentals, right? You got to be able to block, catch, throw, tackle, run. I think that's got to be at the forefront of everything you do from an offensive perspective. So I wouldn't say it's going to be this, it's going to be that. It's going to be what we feel like we're best at and makes us hard to defend. And I think that has to evolve each and every week you're in this league.
So, Drew, looking at your coaching resume over the last decade, there's been a lot of very impressive coaches that you've had exposure to. Can you talk about some of the coaches that have most influenced how you coach today?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. And I kind of mentioned that. Like, I've been so fortunate with the guys that I've been around and been able to learn from and work for. And they've had such a big impact on my career. I guess kind of going back to front. First coming into the league, had the opportunity to work for Norv Turner as an offensive coordinator in both Cleveland and Minnesota. Had a big impact on me as a young coach, just in terms of how you design a game plan, how you interact with your staff, how you attack personnel on defense. And then I was in Minnesota for 6 years. Started with him as the coordinator. Pat Shurmur became the coordinator. Kevin Stefanski finished up as the coordinator there. Gary, obviously, just an unbelievable knowledge base and experience in that system and what he believes in, and staying true to that. The wide zone, the keeper system, and some of the things that he's done throughout his career that led to him winning the Super Bowl there in 2015. And then I think Kevin, similar to my background, was a little bit mix and match. Worked for a number of different coordinators, a lot of different play callers, a lot of different systems over the early parts of his career. And so I think a lot of that shaped his and my belief of, it's not necessarily the language you have, it's how you use it and how you utilize the people you have to be effective. And I think I learned a lot from Kevin in that regard. And Kevin did a great job as I got further in my career of kind of pushing me into that play calling role and preparing me for that in terms of how you put a game plan together, how you manage things on game day, just staying very even keel as a play caller, which is really important kind of as you ride the wave of emotions throughout a football game. I learned so much from him from that standpoint. And Jonathan Gannon, who, in a lot of ways, we were peers coming up in Minnesota on the defensive side of the ball, and that was great for me. We got close as coaches and friends, and then for my growth of understanding defensive football. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to be good at offense, you have to understand what they're doing on the other side of the ball and why they're doing it. And he was great because I could, early in my career, ask questions of, hey, why are you doing that? Why do you think this is good? What gives you problems on defense? And then, being able to work with him over those last 3 years at Arizona, that was a big part of my growth as a play caller and as an offensive coordinator. And I think those, if you look at the people that really had a big impact on me, I kind of, what would that be, 5 guys, I guess, that I would say have been extremely influential. And then, obviously there's a lot of guys that I can't mention or wouldn't get to that, Shane Steichen I worked with early in my career is somebody that I consider a very close friend that has helped me throughout my career. And there's a number of other people in a number of roles that have kind of helped me develop who I am and had an impact on me.
Well, now you land in Detroit where you can rub shoulders with a bunch of other good, really good coaches. Can you tell us what drew you to this opportunity, and did you have other opportunities in the NFL or elsewhere?
This offseason, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it happened pretty early in the cycle, and I think one of the things you've seen throughout the hiring cycle in the NFL is it's slowed down from what it was 10 or 15 years ago. I mean, I remember when I first came into the league, every staff was complete a week or two before the Super Bowl, and now it's it's getting pushed much later. So I was very excited for it to happen early before a lot of things really became open. But I think everything you've watched, heard, and seen from this organization over the last what is it, Dan, 6 years now that Dan's been here, and the culture they build, the way they play the game, the product that's on the field every Sunday. We had to play them 2 years ago, and one of the things that I firmly believe in football is that win or lose, it's a violent game, and people on the other side of the ball need to feel it every time you step on the field. And I think that identity in this building has been so prevalent throughout everything they've done. So as an outsider looking in, you have a ton of respect for that because that's not always easy to do. And I think they do it at such a high level. So I think that was one of the things that made it really appealing. The roster that they've been able to build here over the last couple of years with Brad and Dan is, has a number of great players that are still here and a number that have moved on to other places. And when you have the type of success that they've been able to have, it's exciting to be a part of. And I think it's I'm really fortunate and really excited about it.
I got a follow up from a fan that asks, from Mason Brew Yahoo asks, why do you think the Lions picked you? What separates you from the other candidates?
I wasn't in all the other interviews, although if I was, I would be able to really nail that question. But it's a number of things. I think it's the confidence that I go about the job with. It's my background in a lot of different rooms. I was a receiver coach, I was a tight end coach, I was a quarterback coach, and one of the key points of being an offensive coordinator is you got to be in charge of everything, and you have to hold people accountable. And I think it helps having a diverse background on the offensive side of the ball to be able to do that, because I've had to coach the details of how to block, wide zone on the front side with a tight end, or how to release first press as a receiver, or where the quarterback's eyes and where his feet should be in the quarterback room. And I think that was probably one of those things that I like to think showed throughout the interview. And then the other part of calling plays for 3 years, you start to figure out why you're doing things, how to highlight talent that you do or don't have. And I think that's something that hopefully people were able to see throughout my 3 years there in Arizona. And I'm hoping I'm getting better every single game and every year I'm doing it.
So you've been on the job just for a couple of weeks here. What are some of your first impressions of the energy in the building? Any specific coaches that you've talked with?
Yeah, it's been awesome. I think it's a lot of the things you felt from the outside, just in terms of the attitude, the effort, and kind of the unified focus on the goal at hand. I think that's so important to a successful organization that, look, not everyone's going to agree, and if we did, that wouldn't be good. But that we all know that we're going into it with the same goals in mind. We can have hard discussions. We can get there and kind of go through the nitty gritty of it in the offseason to make sure that we're putting ourselves in the best position to win games in the fall. I think you feel that the moment you walk in the building or start a meeting with all the guys on both sides of the ball, and even Coach Phipp on special teams. And, I know a couple of these guys in different places. Obviously, I worked with Hank for 3 years, Hank Fraley, the offensive line coach for 3 years in Minnesota. So love him and have a great relationship with him, and starting to get to know some of the other coaches and kind of where their backgrounds are and what they can bring to the table. Because again, like, it's not going to just be me doing it by myself. Like, to be good at anything you do, you need a lot of great people around you. And I think there's some great people here that I'm starting to get to know and starting to lean on, which has been really an awesome experience.
Well, you mentioned Hank, and we had a couple questions about that. I'll take one here from Smiley Tevis. Asks, how does your running scheme align with Hank's philosophy, and what is something new in the scheme that you look forward to collaborating with him on?
Yeah, I think the philosophy, again, Hank's been a part of a number of different schemes, and I've watched now a little bit of what they've done here over the past couple of years that he's been here, and I think, look, like, we're not going to completely depart from anything that they've done really well. There's things that I want to introduce that I think we're going to do well. I don't want to talk about them until they show up on tape, unfortunately. But I think it all does come back to kind of that core philosophy. At the end of the day, running the ball is an attitude thing, and it's about moving people off the line of scrimmage. It's about putting the ball in the hands of your best player or one of your best players as often as possible to affect the game. And I think they've done a really nice job of that. And I think I certainly want that to continue. And I'm hoping that, as to your point, I can bring some wrinkles that make that even more effective and maybe unlock a couple things.
Oh, little connection issue. Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we go. We're good. We're good. We're back.
Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah. So I know you don't want to give away too much, of course, but if we look back at the Lions blocking scheme, since we're talking about Hank, the Lions do a variety of different styles of blocking. They tend to lean a little bit more outside zone, whereas your philosophy in Arizona, it was more gap or duo oriented, I think. And so I am curious how you are going to like blend those together, but without, since you don't want to go into too many of those details, I guess I'll talk about what what do offensive linemen need to do, or what traits do offensive linemen need to have in order to operate in a system that incorporates all these different styles of blocking?
Let me get back to that second part of the question because I
Okay.
don't mind getting, we can talk about a little bit of the scheme portion, but
Okay.
I'll be honest, when
Okay.
I first got to Arizona, I had just come out of Cleveland and just come out of, like, we had been a wide zone team primarily. And gap was the secondary. We did both, as most teams do. You're going to do a little bit of everything. And honestly, I thought we were going to be a wide zone team in Arizona. And a
Okay.
lot of that first offseason, it was emphasizing wide zone and certain techniques of that go with that, running off the ball, displacement. We just can't allow penetration, those type of things. And as we got going, I just didn't feel like we were good enough at it to make it our foundation. And to me, any good
Got it.
coach, like, I have to adapt to who we have and what we're good at. And I want to make sure that it, in Arizona, it was emphasizing James Conner and emphasizing the guys we had on the line and what I felt like they did well. So I don't I say that to say, like, once we get on the field and who we have, how they fit together, what the pieces are, the nice part with those two backs is there's a little bit of freedom to do a lot on their stamp. Like, they don't have a lot of limitations, but we got to make sure we block it well and create space for those guys. And if we can't do it in one scheme, well, let's find the other scheme where we can do it. I think it's always kind of finding that balance. But there is a lot of benefits to the wide zone world. You can create great run actions off of it. The keeper game comes off it. You can control the number count a little bit better than you can in some of the other areas. So I think there's give and take and benefits to both of those. And then from a skill set for an offensive lineman, and this is always the age-old debate. Do you take the guy that's a little smaller, that's a little more athletic, the guy that's a little bigger that can grind it out?
Right.
And this is almost a cop out. It's like, I want the better player, and then we'll figure out what we need to do with him. And there's a fine line there because it's really hard on personnel if you're constantly not giving them an answer to that question, right? So there's a balance there, and when the gap's huge, you got to go with the better player. But there also are things that you're going to look for in everyone. And, attitude, effort, finish. There's a call it the there's a line there athletically that you can't be below to do anything. And there's a line
Right.
there, like, I might have great effort and attitude. Like, I'm not creating any movement if I played offensive line. Like, I'm not big enough. So I think there's always those things where it's like there's a floor to some things, and then there's some skills you that are non-negotiable in a way. But a lot of it is what can you do at a high level that makes you better than everyone else we would get for that job.
Sticking with the run game, I want to talk about the backs a little bit. Kind of primarily Dave Montgomery, because there's been a lot of questions about his future with the team. I know you've already spoken to him a little bit. Can you talk about where you envision him in this offense and maybe any sort of insight into conversations that you've had with David so far?
Yeah, and honestly, my conversation at this point were just introductory. And again, I'm going to let him to speak and Dan speak on what that is or isn't. I was just told him I was extremely excited to be there. Obviously, watched him play in this offense for a number of years and think he brings a lot to the table. A lot like Gibbs, he's a dynamic back who can affect the game with the ball in his hands. He's really a three-down back. There's not a lot you're going to look at him and say he can't do this or he can't do that. So that's all I said. Hey, I'm excited to work with you. I can't wait to get you in the building. I know and that's kind of where I'm going to leave it. And then, I'll let those guys talk on anything else kind of as it pertains to that. But again, he's a guy you're excited to work with because of the nature of who he is, how he carries himself, and how he plays the game.
Really quick. Sorry, really quick. I want to follow up because two running back sets have been like a very high, a very big topic in Detroit. You said, Dave Montgomery's a three-down back. Obviously, Jahmyr Gibbs is too. You didn't run a ton of it in Arizona, and I imagine some of that is personnel, whatever. Is that something you envision could be a part of this offense?
I think you're always going to try to find ways to get your best players on the field, and whether that's 25 times a game or 5 times a game, I think that it has to be something you're considering, finding ways to do, finding ways to be creative in. I also know no one's going to play 100% of the snaps, or if they do, they're not going to make it through 17 games. So it's a balance and a fine line of. There's also times you got to find time to get them a break and get them a blow so that they can make it through a 4-month or 5-month NFL season. So it is kind of finding that balance. But yes, when you have two players of that dynamic ability, you want to find things that they can do together on the field because it puts stress on a defense.
I'm gonna stick with unique formation sets here.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the big things that we saw last year trending up in the NFL was the increase of 13 personnel. And I know McVay gets a lot of credit for it, but we look, those of us who have looked into the scheme, they know where it originated from here. We know that you introduced a lot of those concepts in Arizona, and some of it was personnel wise, right? Lions haven't used it as much as I think as they could have in the past. And I think they just didn't have the bodies last year to make it work. But I think stylistically, that formation fits the mentality of this offense. And so just enlighten us, because this is a formation that I think fans are really excited to look into because of the matchup problems it can create for defenses.
I think that final piece is really the key to it. When and again, it's if you have three, if you have three tight ends that don't have a multiple skill set or don't, you're not going to do it because the key is the matchups. And when you have guys that can do a lot of different things, you can start to dictate things based on what the defense wants to do. I think as the game's evolved defensively over the last, call it 5 or 7 years, you're starting to see more and more different defensive personnels. It's not just, hey, we got base, we got nickel, here we go, this is it. You're seeing different variations of base and different variations of nickel and people finding more creative ways to change the front in nickel. So it's not always a four down over that you started to see there, 10 years ago. And so when teams want to do that, well, now in 13 personnel, you have to be able to deal with heavy, everybody in the box and multiple gaps that you weren't ready to account for. And then if you get big, I can spread things out and create people that you don't want to have in space. So it allows you to dictate to the defense a little bit more some of the things that they have been trying to dictate to us based on who they're putting on the field. And it gives you the freedom to jump back and forth without being predictable. Like when you're in 11, you're not putting two wideouts in the backfield and running a gap scheme run. And people for a long time thought in 13 personnel, you wouldn't get into empty and spread things out and create a matchup in space. And you're
Right.
seeing more and more tight ends come out of college that are capable of doing both and that are not going to be covered by linebackers, but also are going to dominate DBs in the run game. And all of a sudden that creates that dynamic where you can put stress on them in a lot of different ways without putting different people on the field.
With offense, it all starts with the quarterback. Let's talk about Jared Goff. Obviously, a little bit different of a quarterback than you've dealt with in the past few years. Veteran, pocket guy. What about his skill set excites you about building an offense around him? And what have those initial conversations with him been like so far?
He's been awesome. And he's as impressive as a quarterback as I've seen watching tape. I think it's one of those things when you're not in the division, and we played him 2 years ago, but we didn't have a ton of overlap. So like you see him, you watch a couple games on TV here and there, and you're like, oh, it seems like he's playing well. And then, coming into the interview process and watching the tape, I think you start to really appreciate how good he really is and at what level he's been playing at these last couple of years. And I think as a play caller, as a coach, really at any position on offense, when you have a guy that sees the game the way he does, that can operate the way he does, the rhythm and the timing and the vision is really impressive. And then having the physical tools to then put the ball where it needs to be placed, to have touch, but also have some violence in his throwing motion. As you said, yes, he's a pocket passer, but he's made some great plays in the keeper game on the move. There's just so many things that I think he does at a really high level that, again, it all goes back to what puts stress on a defense. And when a guy can see the field, check in and out of plays, get in and out of the huddle, like those are little things that I think get taken for granted at times that really make a massive difference in how an offense operates and the success of a team. And I think he's done that at such a high level for such a long time. The one thing and again, you said, obviously Kyler wasn't that, but Jacoby is a little bit more of that and started 12 games for us this year. And I coached Jacoby in the quarterback room in Cleveland for 11 games that he started in 22. So I have been around some guys with similar skill sets now, and I love Jacoby. Jared probably a little bit more gifted and played at a little bit higher level. I know he wouldn't want me to say that, and Jared absolutely would, and he's right. But it's true. It is absolutely true. And I think there's, at the end of the day, and I've always said this, at the end of the day in this league, at some point you're going to have to win the game from the pocket. When you play a great defense, they're not going to miss on the pass rush. And if they are, they're good enough to bring 5 or 6 guys to make sure they don't. And so, and I think that's true of any quarterback in this league. And I think he's done that so consistently. That's where as a coach, you get really excited. And then just talking to him, his love of the game, his willingness to work at it and grind it out and be demanding of his teammates, but also allow me to be demanding of him, I think is really special. So just really excited to get to work with him.
One of the things that was made known when Ben Johnson was here is that Ben and Goff sat down, kind of talked together for some time to talk about a scheme. How much do you lean on Jared Goff when talking about what type of scheme you're creating, and then I know you'll do it during the week, but like just in an overall base ideas, like how much do you lean on a quarterback in your implementation?
Immensely, at a level that, and I think that has to be that way with whoever the guy, like in this case, Jared is going to have the ball in his hand. He needs to know the whys. He needs to know the intricacies. He needs to have a voice in it. And he needs to speak up when he will do a great job of that because I know him at this point a little bit. Like, I'm not comfortable with that. I don't like that. I want this. Do we think this is good? Like, hey, push me on this. And I'm going to. In a lot of ways, to me, a good quarterback play caller relationship, he's another coordinator on staff. He's another coach on staff because of how much time is required to play that position at a high level and how involved. Like we don't do anything without the quarterback touching the ball. So everything we do has to be based around his skill set, making him comfortable, allowing him to see the game the way that he thinks he sees it best. And then I can do some things and involve some things that may, hey, you haven't done this, but I think this is going to fit really well. Here's why, here's how. Let's take a look at it. Are you seeing this the same way I do? Let's take a couple reps of it. Oh, yeah, you're on it. Or, all right, hey, you're not feeling that. We got other ways to go. I think all of that is, kind of the ever evolving offense that you guys will see on the field. But that relationship, that communication is as important as anything.
Speaking of having another coach, you literally do have another coach on the roster with the reported hire of Mike Kafka. I'm just kind of curious, where were you involved at all in the hiring of that? When you were hired, were you aware that it was possible they bring in another offensive coaching assistant there, and have you already collaborated with him a little bit?
Absolutely. I mean, we're in here right now with Mike and the rest of the offensive staff kind of putting it all together, making sure things fit, figuring out the language and how we want to do things. And I think throughout the interview process, there's some different guys and moving pieces and how the staff's going to get put together. I'm not going to get into all those conversations, but
Sure.
always going to be very comfortable. And at the end of the day, like the thing I love about Dan is he's a great communicator. He keeps you in the loop on things that are going on, and everything he's doing is to make this team better and make us, put us in a better position to win. I actually was with Mike. So Mike was a quarterback, I believe, on our practice squad in 2014 or 2015 when I was in Minnesota.
Oh, wow.
So I knew him a little bit. I wasn't in the quarterback room,
Yeah.
but obviously was around him, got to know him a little bit. And then we've kind of stayed in touch loosely throughout the years. And so anytime to me you can add somebody, and again from a different system with maybe a little bit of a different perspective, who can bring new ideas, who is a good communicator, a good teacher, and a great person, I think you're never going to go wrong when you can do those type of things.
I want to go back to your Cardinals days a little bit, just because, when you get hired, everyone goes back and, okay, how'd you do last year? And obviously it was a tough year in Arizona, right? There were some things out of your control with all the injuries, but I'm just kind of curious, what's your perspective on how last year went with the Cardinals, and what did you learn about yourself?
Yeah, I think you heard, again, and I guess it is an excuse to some extent, and you hate to make excuses. The injuries were a big part of it. I think again, it was everything was kind of trending in the right direction. I think at the end of the year, somebody told me, I think we played 11 receivers, 10 offensive linemen, 6 tight ends, and 7 running backs and 2 quarterbacks. And that's not generally a recipe for success in the NFL, no matter what roster you're on. But I think in that process, and like anything you do, you learn a ton about yourself. You learn a ton about the game. We changed dramatically philosophy-wise in terms of what we felt we needed to do to be successful based on who we had available on game day. And I think, as a play caller, as a coordinator, as a coach, not that you want to be a part of a lot of those, but there's a lot of learning to be done when you are forced with the task of like, hey, what we did no longer fits who we have. And it's week 6, and we got to figure out a way to score points and try to stay competitive. And we did. We had to pivot, and obviously it became a little bit more pass oriented because of who we had and what we needed to highlight. Felt like those were, to our earlier conversation,
Yep.
those were our best players. Those were the guys that we felt like had a chance to affect the game. And so we had to move that direction. And so it was a great learning experience. And, you got you're coaching some guys that haven't played a lot or haven't been there very long. And you're forced to get them up to speed and make sure things are hitting their brain and they're going out there and giving themselves a chance, which I do like to think we did. Obviously the results weren't always there, but I feel like we put those guys in position to have success individually and as an offense at times, which was great. And there were other times I learned, all right, I tried that and that wasn't the answer. And that's on me. Like, I got to be better there, and I can't do that again. And I think you're always going to find that as a coach, win or lose. Like, there's some things you do that you're thrilled about, and there's other things you're like, all right, that didn't work, and I was probably the reason didn't. And then there's other times you're like, that shouldn't have worked, and somehow it did. Let's not do that. And then there's other times you're like, that was perfect. Why are we, that should have been a touchdown, and it's
Right.
4th and 10. Like, what's going? So I think that's all part of the game and the frustration of it, but it's also what makes it fun.
You want to move to the lightning round, Eric?
Yeah, I feel like we should.
All right.
We don't want to take up too much of Drew's time here.
Go ahead. I'll let you kick it off.
Do you coach from the sideline, I believe, right? Is there a reason why you prefer sideline over booth?
Yeah, so my first preseason in Arizona, I did both just to kind of feel it out, and I may do that again in a new building, just to like, hey, one preseason game I'm going to do up. I got the sense the communication was easier down, really, with the quarterback. You know, when you're up, it's a little bit harder to have quick conversation. Like I can't say one-offs, I can't do that. I got a little removed, and some people do it and do a really good job of it. For me, I was better suited on the sideline. I also caught myself watching the game more than I like to watch it from the booth. Whereas down on the sideline, I'm kind of like looking at things, understanding where things are at, but I'm able to process a little bit faster and move on. So, but planning on calling it down. But again, I'm gonna feel that out and feel like whatever I feel like is best.
This is a tough one here. Tush push, yay or nay?
Anything that works.
It's a good answer.
What is the better route, the wheel route or the Texas route?
What's the cover?
The little angle. Oh,
no.
Just,
I know the route.
All right.
Is it man? Is the middle of the field open? Or we got pressure?
Let's just say man.
Man pressure. I like a text route if I can get the guy running to the flat. There's nobody left inside. But if I got a pick for the wheel route and the guy goes underneath, it's a layup. So there's benefits to both. Whichever one's more open. I'd say whichever one's more open is generally the one that I like to lean on.
You've got a back that can do both. So
there is no doubt about that. No doubt. Probably two of them, and maybe more than that.
Yeah, Rhea. Yes.
All right, this one comes from a user. Bailey PB says, if you could have brought one Lions player to Arizona last year, who would it have been and why?
Well, I don't feel good answering that question. Okay, somebody's going to be happy one way or the other. I mean, there's just that. Yeah, let's like let me throw if you didn't marry your wife, who would you marry? I mean, that would be bad. That's the recipe for disaster right there.
We'll take this one from Ash. Ash Soden says, what's your dream location for an international game?
Ooh, that's a great question. And there you could go a lot of different ways. I mean, my gut would tell me somewhere I would want a vacation, but it's not vacation, it's work. Right. So I played in London once. I'd love to be like in the mountains somewhere. Now, obviously, it'd be hard to get fans there, but like the Swiss Alps or something like that, where you get like snow and it kind of has like a cool like small town vibe.
Yeah.
But like then there's a big stadium and a great atmosphere.
All right, I think I got a feeling it's.
I got a feeling it's going to be Germany this year, but we'll see how it goes. Right. Okay. Go ahead. What was your? I only see one question left. So what was the other one?
Trudnai asks, who are you more eager to drop 50 points on, the Bears, Vikings, or Packers?
All three.
That's the right answer.
And honestly, I say this, and I'll say this throughout the year. As long as we score one more than they score, I really don't care what that number is at all. Like it can be any number as long as it's more than they score.
Fair.
Last one. Have you sent any smack talk to Ben Johnson yet?
I mean, that's a dangerous game, I don't know if I want to go down that slope. He brings it a little bit. The only thing I said is I'm a better looking Lions offensive coordinator. Other than that, I'm not.
Well, Drew, we've taken up more than enough of your time. Really appreciate you taking some time. And I know it's the off season, but there's really no such thing for a coaching staff. So any time is very much appreciated. And we'll see you down in Indy.
Awesome. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks a lot for having me.
Of course. Thanks, Drew.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Recording stopped.
All right. We're going to still be live to talk about everything we just learned. But thank you again to Drew Petzing for making some time today. Gave us very thorough answers. Really a lot of interesting stuff. We didn't get to everything we wanted to get to. So I'm sorry if we didn't ask your question. But that was just because Drew was laying down a lot of knowledge. Also shout out obviously to the Lions PR team for helping set this up. Let's talk about it, Eric. We'll spend another half hour just here live trying to digest everything that was thrown at us there. What do you have like a major takeaway or like a moment that you're like, oh,
well, okay, you know what? I tell you.
Go ahead.
I get the
cigarette. I think that's true.
No. I get the idea. Well, first of all, kudos to him for picking the correct route.
No,
but
you're like, oh, let me pick the defensive coverage that's going to make my answer the right answer.
Yeah, well, you let me ask that question, I guess. So it's not my fault. So okay, the traditional way of introducing an offensive coordinator in the offseason, like when a new hire is to, you know, someone interviews them, write a story, blah, blah, right?
Mm-hmm.
I totally understand why the Lions were cool with getting him in front of a camera,
Right.
right? Because
He's
like
charismatic,
you can
he's
see,
smart.
yes,
Like
right.
that's, I think you're right. Like that is the main takeaway. Is like we could have sat there and like talked ball for him for a while, which of course like every Lions coach
Right.
is smarter than we are, but for him to be able to like
certainly
talk about it in both a detailed but digestible way, that shows he's probably a pretty darn good teacher, right? Too.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the Dan Campbell clip right now, right? That you got to be a teacher, right?
Yep.
That's what we're doing up here. And so, you know, I think the initial impressions of him were fast, you know what I mean? And like people were worried. And I think if anybody watched that, I think a lot of the worries should dissipate. That would be my assumption, right? Like I started writing stuff down initially, but he was just making so many good points that I was like, I can't even keep up. Like he's like he kicked off right off the bat, and he's like, yeah, it's all more about the players and the scheme, right? And it's like, okay, well, I get that. Like it automatically, you're already on base, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he's talking about mixing and matching and stuff, and I'm like, all right, he's gonna hit the cycle today. So, yeah, look, he was a fast talker. I thought maybe he was nervous and he was coming out fast because he might have been nervous, because I do that sometimes when I get nervous, is I start talking really fast. Right.
When you first started talking today, and I think part of it was just so that we could get to Drew. You started talking super fast. I'm like, oh.
Yes. But because that's what I do in there. And I thought the same. I thought maybe he's a little nervous being in front of the Detroit audience but no, he maintained that pace. He was like a long distance runner. And look, it's easy to see how people can fall in line.
Right.
With
get
that,
energized.
Right.
By
The
it, right?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I also really liked his answer on when I asked him about the Cardinals last year, right? Like, not that anything he told me was new information, but I think just hearing like we saw it, how that team became like the most pass aggressive team in football. They had the most passing attempts and the fewest running attempts. We knew that happened, but hearing him kind of like explain the process of like the injuries kind of forced us into this situation. It left us with what we thought was our strength. And honestly, like the passing efficiency numbers weren't like absolutely terrible. They were about average to like a little bit below average. And so given the pieces that they had, I think that made a lot of sense. And to hear the willingness to adjust, because he mentioned that in year one too, when they were more of when he thought they were going to be more of an outside zone team, but it turned out that's not what they were good at. Right. You know, it's something that a lot of people have said about Kelvin Shepherd in the past. Is like they need to see more adjustments. Well, now you have Drew Petzing in 2 of his 3 years realized, hey, right now our personnel doesn't match what I thought we were going to be, so let's change it. And that willingness to change is huge. Now, do I think the Lions are going to need to undergo anything like that on offense? You know, probably not. They have a lot of established players, and unless something terrible, knock on wood, happens with injuries, like I think he's, you know, the offense is going to stay relatively flat. But at the same time, you know, like last year, they needed to figure some things out in the run game, and they never really did.
Well, and I liked all his answers on the run game as well. Like because my worry was you've built a lot of you've gotten a lot of players that are good at outside zone, and your backs are good at outside zone. And my worry was he was going to be like, no, we're going to try and force more. But he was like, oh no, we're going to adapt. We're going to go to it. And so like that, you know, I think should have calmed some of the nerves of people worried about the run game. But the thing that I liked the most was the fact that he said, yeah, they're doing good, but I have stuff that I want to implement, because that's what was missing. Right. That was the missing piece last year. And so it's
very clearly that line that I think we were all hoping they would do, which is like, let's get someone who can run what the Lions were doing, but not just be a Ben Johnson replica, not just run it back 100%.
Right. It's let's take what he did and elevate it a little bit more. Right.
Yeah.
I came up just this short of asking him if he was going to lock himself in a room for 3 days with Jared Goff to come up with this scheme. But but I caught your eye, and I thought I saw you shake your head, and I was and it threw me off, and I was like, "Oh, is he telling me to wrap this question up?"
No, not at all. It was
It's
like
not.
I did. I kept looking at the clock because I have like he had it
Yeah,
out at one,
I
and
did too.
we wanted to obviously
Yeah.
respect that.
Wanted to hit that line. Yeah.
And we wanted to hit as many of your questions. We probably left, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 9 questions on the floor here.
We had a bunch of these, and like the problem was is he skipped right over one when he was talking about, because he made the connection to Fraley.
Yep.
And that
And so
right
I
off the
jumped
bat.
one.
Yeah, but that made sense because then I jumped you later, when I went from unique personnel to the 13. So, and I saw you came back and got it. So,
Yeah.
but it was hard. It would have been awkward to get to a couple of them because we'd already kind of passed it. But you guys had a lot of great questions.
Yeah,
like,
and I
there
kind of
really
want to
were.
shout out some of the people that did have really good questions that we didn't get to. Go Football wanted to know his thoughts on the art of play calling. What's the key to good play calling? I just knew that was going to give us like an 8-minute answer, and I'm like, it's a really good question, and maybe that's something I ask him down at the NFL Combine.
If we had an hour, that would have made it for sure.
Jake Plotcha wanted to know about developing a play call sheet and what goes into that process, and does it change week to week and categories and things like that. Dennis in Colorado wanted to know if Petzing uses any AI. We didn't even talk about Sam Laporta and
I know.
that. Like that was
we had to skip that the skill players.
Yep, that was one that we wanted to get to that we didn't get to. I really wanted to get to this 2-part question. What's a play call that still eats at you? What do you consider your biggest coaching success? I kind of wish I had asked one of those, but we just didn't have the time. Yeah, and we wanted to dig a little bit more into the Ben Johnson thing in our first draft of questions, but we felt like ending on a silly one like that was better. Like the very first question I had written down just to kind of like be a lighthearted one was just be like, how's the food at Ben Johnson's wedding? But we decided like we have a limited amount of time. Let's not be overly silly here.
I like he had the right answer for who do you want to hang 50 on, and he said all of them.
Yeah,
like that's the right answer.
Right. Yeah, another one that I kind of wanted to incorporate in when we were talking 12 and 13 personnel, because I sensed the concern from other people, which is like, if this team is going to lean on 12 and personnel, what does that mean for Isaac Tislaw? But I think you can kind of deduce from his answer, like, they're not just going to do 13 personnel to do 13 personnel. They're going to have the personnel to run 13 personnel. And right now, quite frankly, in my opinion, they don't.
But the look on his smile, the smile on his face said a lot to me. Like,
yes.
Oh, we're going to run this.
well, right. Like when you started talking about Sean McVay getting the credit, he did get a big smirk on his face. Cause like, I think he knows, I don't know if he's like, if you can consider him the designer
he was,
of 13 personnel, but
he
in a lot
might
of ways,
look, everything innovates from like back, further back, but he was the guy who really introduced it at a higher rate.
Right.
And so I tried to give him his flowers for that.
Yeah.
Oh,
I feel like I immediately have to rewatch everything again because like he was very engaging and I was very much listening, but like when you're engaged and also ready, like trying to get ready for the next question, it's just like, sometimes it feels like you get it, you're really engaged, you're listening, and then it's
you're trying to do two things at once.
Yeah.
Right. I kept trying to look at the chat too, but I was having a hard time because I was trying to like dial in on him. Well, look, I think you did a good job, buddy.
Thanks. So did you, man. I think, listen, cards on the table. We were both pretty nervous about this one.
Certainly.
But I think once we got into it, again, because he was a relatively easy guy to talk to, and because I think just you and I in general, like, we slip right in, right? Once we get going, it's like, oh, we're just talking football, and it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that went pretty.
I don't like having to introduce the questions in the midweek mailbag. I'd like to leave that to you still.
Okay, we'll continue to do that then. I'd like to hear your guys' biggest takeaways or favorite answers or whatever you want. I'm going to let you guys fill out our live chat with those answers while I give some thanks to a bunch of new subscribers. Shocker. Obviously I had the alerts off during the show itself since it to not have it interrupt, but let me shout out the people. TM Grassi, thank you for the subscription on YouTube. Chalise, thank you for subscribing on YouTube. Andy Bell, thank you for subscribing on YouTube. Josh Wiener, thank you for the follow on Twitch. Kerr J, thank you for following on Twitch. Chris, thank you for subscribing on YouTube. Daniel J, subscribing on YouTube. Biggest Error, follow on Twitch. Go Cats, follow on Twitch. Clifford, YouTube. I don't know, SHIT. I'm just going to say that. Thank you for subscribing on YouTube. Das Gibb, 52 months subscribed on YouTube. Choco Brisket Bowl, 64 months subscribed on Twitch. Robin Dyke, 30 months subscribed. Says, let's go, fellas. John Johnson, 17 months on Twitch. 40 months on Twitch. Says, love all the content. Keep up the great work. Luxtables, 35 months. Says, let's go, pod. Alex V, thank you for the sub on YouTube. Roar and Lions Detroit, thank you for the 14 months. Says Amon Ra Reversary. Nice, well done. Dylan, thank you for the 40 months subscribed on Twitch. Katie from Michigan, 58 months, says welcome, Drew. Let's get that Lombardi. Joey E, thank you for subscribing on YouTube. Soulful Break, 23 months subscribed on Twitch. Lion Glow, thank you for the follow on Twitch. J Goss following on Twitch. The Collecting Kid, YouTube. Dada versus everybody. Thank you for following on Twitch. Downgrade, 19 months subscribed on Twitch, says welcome to Detroit Petzing. Go get a Super Bowl. G Money, 34 months on Twitch, says I've never seen Eric so giddy. LOL. Sharpest Cheddar, thank you for the follow on Twitch. Thomas J Hutchins, 35 months on Twitch, says 3 years already almost. Jay Shaw, thank you for subscribing on YouTube. Duckline, 35 months on Twitch. And Alonzo D Alba, thank you for subscribing on YouTube. And we're caught up. All right. Did you see some good answers? Were you looking, or do I got to scroll up here?
No, we got a text. You should check.
Oh, I did. Yeah. What? I'll answer it.
I said it was nice.
Yeah. Anyways, what I noticed, he said, I have 2 running backs that can run wheel in Texas. It makes me feel good about Monty.
Yeah, look, I mean, he's said a lot of nice things about Monty.
Certainly, yeah,
right.
He's very, very complimentary of Montgomery. Of course, he's going to be, and didn't really take the bait of like, hey, what'd you say to him? Which, listen, all of like the difficult questions, he did a good job deflecting. And to be clear, I didn't expect him to do anything else, but there were questions that had to be asked, right? Yeah, of course. Yeah. You have to ask about the Kafka things. He did more or less, he did confirm that they have hired him, which I think is notable because the Lions still haven't done that.
Yeah, but everyone knows.
Everyone knows. But like, there was part of me is like, I wonder if he's not even in the building yet because because of like the Seattle OC job is something, but more or less confirmed Kafka was there, which is, at least it's a minor confirmation of what we already knew. And then to go back to Monty, he called him a 3-down back, which I think is notable.
He's not wrong. Yeah, he's not wrong either.
No, he's not. I don't know. I don't know where that saga goes. Obviously, from some of the stuff that Montgomery said last week, certainly makes me feel a lot more optimistic about it than before. But I think it's clear that everyone in that building respects and wants Montgomery to be part of the team. It's just a matter of, can they convince him that he's going to be as utilized as he wants to be?
I'm still of the mindset of, if you have a lead, it makes it easier to use them, because their mindset last year was, if we're not winning, we got to lean on Gibbs to get us back to when we're winning. You know what I mean? That was their approach last year. So
he's the opposite of Matt Patricia, so that's a plus. No round hole, square pegs. That seemed to be kind of a running theme with all of his answers, though, right? Like, anytime we're like prodding him about scheme and stuff, he's like, we'll see. I got to see who I got first.
I did like that I gave him I didn't mean to give him an out, but I kind of had to give him an out on the on the run games, on the blocking scheme, because he had just said, I don't want to give too much away.
Right. But then he was like,
no, we'll do it. And I was like, awesome.
Yeah. Lance says, I was impressed by him not being married to a system. Great coaches put players in good positions instead of forcing them to do something they may not be best at. And he reiterated that a few times. Agreed. Experiment says, it sounded like there was an official confirmation of Kafka's. I don't know if it's a confirmation that Kafka is staying with the Lions, but that he's there. Like right now, it certainly sounds like
Yeah.
he's there. Yeah,
I really,
Billy Jack asking him about how involved golf was kind of one of the questions we had that was on the cutting room floor. I imagine he'd be very scant on details, but
yeah, he kind of set us up to talk about even like the pre-snap motion stuff that I think people are worried about, but like we were getting short on time.
Yep.
And like we had just done 2 questions on golf, and I was kind of, when I asked my follow-up on golf, I was setting it up to get back to the pre-snap, and he kind of talked about the fact, like he just gushed on golf so much that I was like, all right, it's kind of covered it, you know what I mean?
But he did talk. Did he not say like Goff has done a good job on the keeper?
He said he's more mobile than he gets credit for, especially. And
well, no, I don't. Here's the thing. I don't disagree. I kind of wish the Lions would bootleg him a little bit more.
I
know
wonder,
that sounds crazy, but
no one would expect it. So it's always effective.
He did it a little bit in LA, and he can he can throw on the run.
Yeah, he just doesn't.
Yeah. I'd be interested to see if they introduced some of that. I almost wanted to jump in there when he said something like that, because I really don't disagree, but it's not something they've leaned into at all here.
Yeah, they don't want to get him hurt.
That's true. I mean, yeah, it's the whole like turning your back to pressure. Like, I guess if you have comfortability in your blocking, or that your play action is going to be so solid that unblocked defender is going to, you're hoping he crashes down, giving Goff a lane. But also, what I like about that is, in the rare instances where there's instant pressure on a naked bootleg like that, where you really fall into trouble with is quarterbacks that panic, right? With that pressure, like they'll try to throw something crazy or what, like, Jared Goff is just going to turf that and be fine and go on to the next one. You okay? You okay? You gonna be okay?
I need a paper bag. Catch my breath.
Can you show the people how many waters you have beside you?
I have a lot of water.
I had to make sure that I didn't have anything in front of me because I'm very much a fidgeter. So I didn't want to fidget and make noise. When will you guys... McVay, I believe the answer to that is
going through my notes. All the notes that I took when he got hired, they all came into like I used a lot of them today. All the stuff, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I was happy about that.
Yeah. Trying to think what else. Yeah, we were going to ask him a very leading question that I thought was probably appropriate to leave on the table. Is just like, hey, when you look at all the weapons the Lions have, how excited do you get? Like, excited. Okay, cool. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to see him in 2 weeks anyway. So
he talked about Hank, a little bit about OL, right? Yep. I was hoping to get a little bit. I need to go back and listen to that answer, because I wonder if I got everything I want out of it, or if I'll need to follow it up.
Yeah,
because he did a good.
We don't want them to run Jared Goff more. That you're not listening to what we're saying.
Jared wheels, put the wheels back on him.
Yeah. The coaching history was interesting. The one thing I wanted to maybe delineate is, like, who did you learn from schematically? Who did you learn from, like, in terms of, like, coaching, in terms of teaching? Like, who was a teacher that you... He got a little bit of all that in there.
He's got an interesting story. Like, if you really go back, and I know we didn't dig too much into it, and I think the Lions video that they put out has a little bit of it as well.
Yeah.
But then if you watch the Schrager video from a couple years ago, that talks about it even more.
Yeah.
Starts out he played safety, and then he gets a career-ending knee injury, and decides he wants to go into coaching, and then he wants to make a living, and then it's a grind through all this stuff, and then he starts out on defense, like as a defensive assistant.
Yep.
And then Norv Turner starts like asking him to do this and asking him to do this. And he's kind of like becomes like Norv Turner's errand boy. And he just adapts so quickly to what Norv is looking for that when Norv went to Minnesota, Jason Garrett was actually trying to hire him in Dallas, and Norv was like, no. We have a job for you. Like that'll be like an internship. Like I'm getting you a job. And like the fact that Norv Turner's like he's like highly respected.
Yeah.
The fact that Norv like wasn't willing to let him go anywhere else and insisted on having him with like at such a young age when he's just starting. I mean, that's got to feel really great for him. You know what I mean? So I'm sure like most of his base stuff, it all has to start from Norv, right? Because like he was with Norv for like 3 years in Cleveland, and then another 2 years with Minnesota. It's the first 5 years where he's like really actually like coaching.
Right.
It's all under Norv. So
I feel like that the Kafka connection completely escaped me, and I'm not sure how.
Because it was when Kafka was a player.
The player, yeah. Still though, like I feel like I should have. Someone must have made that connection at some point.
No, none of us did.
Because like
I never saw it.
It's clear as day if you just look at their Wikipedia page. Like Kafka was there in 2015 as a player, not a long time, mind you, but like he was there.
All my cross references are during their coaching career. I never even thought, because like now I'm starting to think. No, Dan wouldn't have been. Okay, never mind. So wait a minute. What year would he have gone to Dallas? I think Dan would have been in Miami then. Yeah.
So, what's up, Brett? Sorry your alert didn't work. I mean, we were pretty clear about when we were going live, so maybe you shouldn't rely on Twitch. Sorry.
You'll be able to watch it.
You can watch it right now. I mean, you can go on YouTube or Twitch and just hit the rewind button or scroll back. But I briefly checked the numbers on YouTube, and we were at like 700, 800 live viewers, which is way higher than normal. We're still at about 600 right now as people are digesting and chatting about what we learned here.
Well, look, I think I hope I speak for a lot of people when I say I feel a lot better today than I did yesterday.
I saw that comment at least 4 or 5 times. It was just like, wow, I feel way better about this higher now.
Like it, and I felt good about it yesterday. Too.
Right.
Like that was the thing. Like the more I've dug into him, the more I've understood why he was hired.
Right.
Like again, we talk about what were we looking for when we were hoping to see in a coordinator, right? Outside of the organization, young offensive mind, creativity in different styles, success in the run game, ability to introduce new things. And he really has all of those things that we talked about. Like, it's I think the Lions fans are going to end up being very happy with this. With this hire really, when it's all said and done.
To me, the biggest question, and again, unfortunately, it was one of the things that was left on the cutting room floor here, is just play calling. And I would have liked to hear a little bit more about his process when it comes to play calling.
Well, now that we've done all the legwork for everybody else, then now that's where the questions can go.
Right.
When we get to see him next.
Probably at the combine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we might just leave it there, y'all. Unless there's anything else you guys want to talk about real quick. Probably should get to work in writing kind of like a takeaways type of article. I already see someone mentioned that Mike has already written several articles about us, which is fine. That's kind of what we were anticipating a little bit. And honestly, we're flattered to make some news. So, thanks again. I don't know if they're watching anymore, but thanks again to Lions PR team for helping set this up. Very much honored to have the privilege of talking to Drew. Something that we don't take for granted, and I know they thought we did a good job, so that's exciting. Hopefully this is a kind of the start of something that we do a little bit more regularly.
Well, let's get Kafka on next.
Right. In 2015, what did you think about Drew Petzing as an offensive assistant? All right. Yeah, we'll call it there. For Pride of Detroit Direct subscribers, I do plan on writing a little bit about the behind the scenes process of this.
Oh boy. We should just do a video because it's long.
I don't even think it's that long.
I do.
But I think it'll be a fun thing for you guys to kind of see some of the things that went on behind the scenes, some of our goals for this. Obviously, there's some things that I can and can't say just from a PR perspective. But yeah, I think that'll be something cool for you guys to read maybe tomorrow, if not early next week. PODcast will probably be the next time we're live, Monday evening, to talk about the week, maybe talk about this interview a little bit, and probably talk a little bit about free agency since that's next on the calendar here. Well, combine, then free agency. Free agency is less than a month away.
I have to start my combine articles soon. I prepped them. I prepped the outline, but I would start them tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I'm a little bit behind in my prep because of this exciting opportunity. So.
Yeah, it's kind of consumed our thoughts for the past 5 days, 6 days, week.
Yeah, it's been there. That's for sure.
All right. Well, guys, appreciate. I should also say, part of the reason that we got this was because of the reach we have on YouTube and Twitch, which means you guys should celebrate a little bit in this win for us, because without you, it doesn't happen. They saw the potential in our community, so you guys helped make this happen, and I don't want to ever lose sight of that. And honestly, like it's super cool. I always say it a lot. The expansion to live streaming has been one of the more gratifying parts of this job. It's super fun. It's super fun to interact with you guys, have all these inside jokes with you guys, and just see our platform continue to grow in real and interesting ways while maintaining what I think to be very quality content as well. So, yeah. Anyways, just wanted to share that bit of gratitude with you guys. And yeah, like Ross Ginter says, like and subscribe. Click that bell. All right. We'll see you guys over on prideofdetroit.com for a full breakdown of this interview. As always, if you missed it, you can just go hit the scroll button, refresh the page, whatever you want to do. We're going to have the video, including this part, up on the website as well. So that'll be a quick way to access it if you don't want to go all the way to our Twitch or YouTube pages. But have a great freaking weekend. Sadly, the first football-less weekend in some time, but we'll get through it with things like this. And hopefully, like I said, this is just the first of many things like this to come.
Just rewatch this video 3 times on Sunday. And that'll,
There you go.
it'll be,
That's the football
it's
game.
exactly the same